What's going on, guys? Welcome back. It's Tactical Foul. Kyle Grew here as always. Today, have a special guest. He was once here in Michigan with us, but it took for him to be outside of the state now for us to connect. He's right now currently a coach at Tennessee Soccer Club. He holds his USSF C license, an FA level 2, and he's also a marketing manager in the United States for VO cameras, which is popping up all over the place. If you don't know what VO camera is, and you're in soccer or in football, you are living under a rock for sure. Please welcome Lee Hudson.
Hey, Carl, thanks for having me on, man. And definitely gotta say yes if you're in the football, soccer world, sports world, in fact, and we haven't heard of VO. Check us out. We're revolutionizing the way that we capture sports.
Oh yeah, we will for sure talk about VO plenty in this. I'll give you my gripes. No, I'm just kidding. But we'll definitely talk about it for sure. But what I do want to talk about first, at least I want to just kind of introduce you to everybody. Obviously, have a little bit of a Twitter following and different things like that. You are, very good. Like a lot of people that I've had on here at interacting with other coaches, other people within the world. But I think there's plenty of people that still don't know your story or anything like that. So I just want to take it kind of back to the beginning, where you come from, your kind of how you grew up in the game.
Yeah, for sure. So I think, like many of the expats that have come from the UK to the US, we came over on a dream. The American dream of being able to coach in the US but get paid for it. Was the dream that the US sold us. And I mean, I grew up playing in England. I was lucky enough to play for Cheltenham Town Academy and Hereford United, which are very, very small clubs, and anybody that's British or English that are listening to this, obviously they'll know that they're very small academies. I was by no means the best player in my group, and I was by no means the superstar. And I always wanted to play up front. I always wanted to be the goal scorer. I think that's what every kid wants to be. And I think that I think it was Jamie Carragher that once said, "No one wants to grow up and be a Gary Neville." And they didn't. They didn't. But
Yeah,
guess what? I ended up as a Gary Neville. I ended up as a right back. And so, but
yeah,
that was my place. That was my place. And that was where my coach said that I was going to play the most amount of time. And I think that what a lot of people lose sight of is they want to be the goals, they want to get the assists, they want to have all the limelight, they want to have their name up in lights, but people forget the hard work that everybody else puts in between. And so I was quite happy because I knew that if I played up front, I'd probably get 10 minutes a game. But if I played at right back, I'd probably play 80% of the game. So I had to suck it up and say, you know what? I care more about the game than I do about playing in the position that I actually want to play in. So went through that system, and it spat me out the other end like it did most English players, and they didn't care. They were like, yeah, sure, another one will come through eventually, which they always do. And so I decided, you know what? Obviously, I was never going to make it as a pro. I was never going to make it anywhere as a player. So when you can't play, you coach, and you turn your attention to the coaching side of the game. I didn't get into it right away. I was released from Cheltenham Town Academy when I was 16 years old. So obviously there was a big gap, in between there. And you can't really start coaching at 16. Everybody still looks at you as a kid at that age. And what can you tell me? What can you educate me on at 16 years old? So I had to take a little bit of a stopgap from there. And so I think a story that maybe most people don't know is I joined the Air Force. I was in the British Air Force
wow,
for 5 years, 5.5 years actually. I served a tour in Afghanistan. I served a tour in Iraq, and then I also served a peacekeeping duty in the Falkland Islands. So I did that for 5 years. And what was great about that experience is it turned me from that, I guess, from that child at 16 years old into a man, because you didn't really have the chance to have mommy and daddy, do everything for you and get your boots ready to play and have your uniform out and all that. Like, you didn't have that. You had some drill sergeant that was kicking you up the backside every day, making sure that you did everything appropriately. Otherwise, you were going to feel it. So it was that transition between, I'm 16 years old. I know that I'm not going to play, and I have no desire to go on for further education like university or college or anything like that. So it was like a crossroads in my life. Like, what was I going to do in this transition period of my life? And so I picked to go into the Air Force, and so that was my route. And I think it was the best choice that I ever made when it came to developing me as a person. because I think that that's what a lot of coaches want to do, and a lot of coaches preach about, right? Is we're not here to develop just a player, we're here to develop the person.
100%.
And I think that the experiences that I had in the Air Force helped me as a coach when I inevitably became a coach in the future. Was I took those lessons about developing the person, and I used that when I started to coach as well. So I think that was kind of just a cool experience that I had, in that, kind of like early teens / early 20s period of my life, where it was like, what are you going to do with your life? And, that was kind of the choice I made. After that, I got out the Air Force, and I knew that I was obviously wanting to be a coach. I wanted to educate players. I wanted to develop players in the way that, that they could continue their life the way that I couldn't. And I had some skills and I had some knowledge in my tool belt, should we say, to be able to deliver that information. And again, I've said it many times, like playing is one thing, delivering information is another, and how players receive that information is completely different. So I was actually recruited to go and work for Southampton FC in their academy. I went to work with a fantastic mentor. His name is Andy Martino. I'm forever grateful for the opportunity that he'd given me at Southampton FC. It was in a transition period for the club. I'm a big Southampton fan as well, by the way. So to work for the club was like on another level, and like, I'm being asked to work for a club that I love and support. And you can see the jersey kind of behind me here. I'm a big Southampton fan. And so, to be asked to coach for the club that you've supported your whole life was honestly an honor for me. And it was only the little guys, it was a U7, U8s, but it didn't matter. It was the fact that I got to wake up every day and put on that uniform that I used to wear when I went to the stadium to watch the games. And now I'm putting it on and actually getting paid, to kind of work for a club, which I'd have probably done for free, if I'm honest. I'd have been like, you know what, guys, I love this club so much, I'm just going to go ahead and just do it for you, But the club, they put me through my level 1. They put me through my level 2 license. They paid for that to make sure that it was continued education, because obviously they were investing in me, and investing in me meant that they were investing in the kids in the academy as well. So it was coming kind of full circle. Unfortunately, the club went into administration. It was when we were in the championship, and then we got relegated into League One. We started off with a negative 10-point deduction. There was a whole circus about it. And obviously people who watch the game and know about the game, they know about the whole story. And I'm sure that people know about Southampton from back to front, about all the great players that we had and sold, whether it's Mane or Walcott or Gareth Bale or Van Dijk, just to name a few, by the way. Then Adam Lallana to be another one, and Nathaniel Klein. Half of them went to Liverpool. So, which obviously we'll come back to later.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Which we'll come back to later. But it was, it was just a fantastic opportunity to coach them. I was only there with them for 2 years before they went into administration. And then again, I found myself in a gap. Like, well, now what? It was military, done. Coach for the club that you've loved and supported your whole life, done. But now that's come to an end. Like, now what? Now what do we do? So a summer camp company called Challenger Sports, who's quite well known around the US, they did a bunch of summer camps, and they're, they were mainly looking for like college students that were looking for like a summer internship. They were out in the States. I mean, they pay peanuts, but again, like I said at the start of the conversation, they were selling a dream. Come to the US, we'll pay for everything. We'll pay for your accommodation. We'll pay for your car. We'll pay for you, and we'll even pay you to coach, while you're driving around the US. And I'd never been to the US before. Like, I'd never even been here on vacation. I'd never visited, like nothing. It was the first time I'd ever come to US, and this was 2008. And I remember I applied for it. We went on like a training day weekend in Warwick, England, like middle of the country. Just had a great time. Got to know the people at Challenger Sports, got to know the management staff. Obviously, we had to run some sessions to make sure that we were competent enough to educate US children here in the US about football, soccer. And so they were like, yep, awesome, you're on your way, And before I knew it, I was on an American Airlines plane to Atlanta, and my feet hadn't even touched the floor. And they put me right in the Bible Belt, Alabama, Mississippi. I was like deep south when I came here.
Deep south.
And that was like my first experience in the US. It wasn't like New York, tourism, Chicago. It was like, bang, get to Alabama, and I was like, okay, this is intense. So it was, yeah, and hot, because it was summer, it was July, it was, humidity, it was bugs, it was all the things that you just don't get in the UK. I mean, we don't even have air conditioning in the UK when it gets hot, so that was just a luxury when I came here, but I think the most positive experience that I took from that whole thing was that we weren't ever put in hotels when we worked for the company. It was always with host families.
Oh.
You're always staying with a family, and these families would obviously volunteer themselves to host the coaches and stuff. So, staying with families here kind of really exposed me to the true American culture, and getting to live the life that an American would live, and not just living in a hotel out of a suitcase. It was more like, hey, you're with a family, and they treated you like royalty while you were there. You were their prized possession. You were the guy that flew 5,000 miles to come and coach their kid on a soccer camp in Huntsville, Alabama, which is where I was. And I never heard of Huntsville, Alabama until I came here. And now I'm in Nashville. I'm like 45 minutes away from it. So
I've never heard of Huntsville, Alabama.
Okay. So apparently, it's there's some space museum there or whatever to do with NASA.
Okay.
I don't know, but
I know. Yeah.
So, but it was just this cool experience, and they introduced me to, American football that I'd never even watched before I come to the US. They were huge Auburn fans, so instinctively, like, I just jumped on the Auburn wagon when I came here, and again, I had no idea they were just they're Auburn all over the house and stuff, and so I was like, yeah, sure, that'll be my team if anybody asks.
Yeah,
like that'll be my group. So yeah, just spent a couple of summers obviously working with Challenger Sports, and ended up in Michigan when a club was looking for a full-time coach to work up there. I started coaching in Saline, which is just outside of Ann Arbor. Worked for Saline Soccer Club for 4 years, and had a fantastic experience. The board of directors there, and my former DOC Andy Brookfield, who now works for Surf Soccer Club over in San Diego, were fantastic, and they extended the opportunity to come and work there on like an H-1B visa, which was a seasonal visa from like spring, summer, and fall, and then I would have to go home in the wintertime, renew my visa, go through that whole process, and then fly back out in the next spring. And like I said, did that for 4 years, and during those years I actually met my now wife in 2010. We got married in 2012, and the rest is history, as they say. I have 2 kids, a 6-year-old son Callum and a 9-year-old son Leo, and that's kind of, it all kind of happened so quickly when it came to obviously coming in and coming out of the country, and always having to renew my visa and always going through that process. But I always think back, again, I said at the start of the conversation, I'm almost on my 3rd life between coaching for Southampton, military, and now coming over to the States. All these things had to happen for a reason to be where I am today. So yeah, very, very thankful for the opportunities that I've had along the way.
No, for sure. I guess with the visa situation, I think it's something very interesting because obviously I know quite a few coaches that deal with it just like that as well. Does that kind of just add to like you kind of were saying, like your tool belt? Like it's just one extra thing that like you're able to just, I think it gives you that like adaptability, which I've said many times is like one of the best things you can have as a coach. And honestly, I think if you're able to adapt to situations just as a human being is a very good thing to have. Like, is that something that you think you really like, one of those other things that really taught you as a person how to just deal with like life or maybe even coaching just from that situation alone?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, obviously going through the visa process for those people obviously haven't, it's quite an intimidating process. I mean, there's an endless amount of forms that you have to fill out. You have to go to you have to go to the US Embassy in London, when you're there, and you have to answer a bunch of questions that, make absolutely no sense whatsoever because you've never answered yes to them. Like, are you going to conform in any form of terrorism when you come to the US? And you're like, well, who would answer yes to that question, even if that was something that they were going to do? So there's just all these questions that you have to go through, and you have to go through your biometrics with your fingerprints and all this type of stuff. And then they're like, okay, we'll let you know in a couple of months if you've been approved for this visa. And so, during the time that I did it, I'd already met my now wife, who we were dating at the time.
Right.
And so, I'm at home for like four months, so we're kind of having this like long distance relationship, and we're almost like just crossing our fingers at the time. Like, let's hope he gets a visa, and
Right.
comes back. Otherwise, this could be something that we don't really necessarily want to do for the rest of our lives. So it was always like that, twiddling your thumbs type of situation. And yeah, to add on to your point, is it something that adds a tool to your toolbox? 100%. It's just one of those things. It's like, you know what? It's out of my control. I've done everything that I can, but at the end of the day, this decision is on someone else. It's not on me, and that may come back to a player during tryouts, right? Like, you've done the best you can. You've done everything possible, but inevitably the choice is not up to you. It's up to someone else, whether you make the A team, B team, C team, or whatever, right? So again, players can adapt to this type of stuff in their life situations as well.
No, absolutely. And you allude to it earlier, but obviously, very famously, Southampton sells a lot of their players to Liverpool. And they didn't sell you, but you did
Yeah, yeah.
actually. You are another Southampton product that ended up at Liverpool.
So
Obviously
ironic.
in the United States, though.
Yeah, yeah.
How did that kind of come about? Obviously, it's in Ann Arbor, so I imagine the proximity helped. But how did you have a laugh even at the time when that was kind of coming about, or and how did that come about for you?
Yeah. So I mean, I was working for Celine at the time.
Yep.
Like I said, when I first started to obviously coach in Michigan, and then I went to work for Dexter Soccer Club, which is obviously another community club kind of within the vicinity of Ann Arbor.
Yep.
And then there was a transition period between Dexter and Michigan Alliance that was kind of going on, and Andy Wagstaff, who is the owner of, which was Force FC, which was based out of Ultimate Soccer Arenas.
Yep.
I went to work for them for 2 years before the club decided that we were going to change and rebrand into Liverpool FC, which is obviously now Liverpool International Academy Michigan. I'm sure a lot of people obviously in the state of Michigan have heard of the club. And there's obviously, much like Nationals and Jags and everybody else, there's little kind of satellites, should we say, kind of around the Detroit metro area. So Liverpool is obviously no different to those guys. And so Ann Arbor is its own island when it comes to the youth soccer world, in my opinion. And it's kind of like you've got Ann Arbor, and then like the next closest like powerhouse is like Livonia, and then you've got your Novi, and then you kind of make your way through that Metro Detroit area. But Ann Arbor, when you kind of think of Michigan itself, I mean, home of the University of Michigan, it's got this like very prestigious history when it comes to sports and just the city itself, And so after 2 years with Force, and then 1 year when it transitioned into Liverpool FC, I approached Andy and I said to him, you know what, let's give it a go. Like it was the same year that we went from to the birth year system with club soccer. So that exact same year, and everybody knew that things were just going to go to crap, because we were going from this, grade system, fifth grade, sixth grade, and all the way through. And we were going to change that into this birth year system. And everybody knew that teams were going to break apart, right? It was just inevitable that it was going to happen, because we were changing the landscape and changing the format. So I turned around to Andy and I said, look, let's give it a go. If there's ever a year that we're going to get into Ann Arbor to obviously form a club, start a new club, then this was going to be our time to do it. So we spent a good 8 to 9 months kind of building a business case and building a plan, and where we were going to practice, which coaches we were going to hire, and I guess what kind of really helped me is I had a brand. I had the Liverpool brand, right? I had that to back me. It wasn't like I had, just a no-name brand out there that was like Lee Hudson Soccer School. Like, it wasn't like I was just doing it on my own. It was like I had this huge, international, global brand backing me, and had all the marketing experts and great support from management and directors at the main location there of Liverpool. And we just we went boom, right, let's do it. Tryout season came round. We didn't know what to expect. We had zero, we had nothing, we had no players, no like rec program underneath of us, zero, nothing. And so we were just like, let's do it, let's see what happens. And we had, at tryouts, physically walked through the door that very first weekend that we did. We had over 250 players walk through the gates to a brand new club they'd never heard of, to coaches they'd never met, and they walked through the gates. And we ended up selecting out of those 250 about 160 players for the first season that we did. And we had a really, really great first season. We practiced at U of M soccer fields. I worked out a great agreement with U of M to allow us to use the Elbel Field, which is kind of downtown Ann Arbor, and obviously use their practice fields as well. Year 2 comes around, we go from that, we double it. We don't double it, but we go to 250. Then the year after that, we go to 340. And then the fourth year I was there, we ended up, before I left to come to Tennessee, we had 450 players in the club before I left. And that was in a 4-year span. And it was such an incredible experience. It was such a, like, I'd never done it before. I much like yourself, Carl, I was a staff coach. That was all. I was a staff coach. But I like to think I'm a bit of a freelance entrepreneur, should we say. And I know people, I know the market, I knew exactly what I had to do in order to accomplish this. And so I set out my stall. I did my marketing. I did exactly what I needed to do. I went into the community. I did school days, like just went into the middle schools and the elementary schools and started doing stuff. And, the whole marketing get up. And like I say, by year 4, we're at 450 players. And I just felt this sense of accomplishment, but that, we'd finally achieved something in Ann Arbor, because Ann Arbor, like I said at the beginning there, it's its own little island. There was one big club in the city, Michigan Tigers, who did a fantastic job. They were great at developing those players, but there was no secondary option. There was nothing. It was almost like your only option was to go to Whole Foods. That was it. Like, there was nothing else. You couldn't go to Trader Joe's or Myers or Kroger. That was it. You could only go there. And so I thought, by doing this, it was giving someone else that extra option. If you didn't want to go there, you had this other option to go to. And so, it was a fantastic experience. And I'm very grateful for the club, for Liverpool, and to the directors and to Andy and that, for giving me the opportunity to kind of go with my dream and go with my instinct and go with my entrepreneurship to start the club in Ann Arbor.
No, for sure. And I think you said something interesting about like the marketing and different things like that. I think it's actually one thing that is not actually that well utilized in terms of the youth game and different things like that. I think a lot of times what ends up happening is people kind of, like, I guess the best way is like rest on their laurels. Like, they have the prestige of a club or different things like that. It's like, but like the true, like, kind of like groundwork and like street level marketing, I think that's where you get those like booms that you're talking about. And I think it's something that you kind of miss a lot of times. And like, look, I coach for Nationals, Tri-County, which, you talk about island, we're definitely we're definitely on an island.
Yeah, you guys are on an island up there for sure.
Yeah, a little smaller of an island than Ann Arbor, but it's an island. But and I think it's something that we are trying to do for sure here, is just like the grassroots marketing of it all, is like trying, like you said, getting into the schools. And I think it's an interesting thing, because anytime I've ever talked to people about like going into schools and different things like that, it's people are almost like surprised and like look at me like I had this great idea. I'm like, I didn't come up with that whatsoever. Like it's people have been doing this for a while, actually. And people did it before me, and I just took it because I come from my mom owning a business, and my dad, he didn't own businesses, but he's in bands, which then marketing guy for that, to try to like get himself into different things like that. So I think it's something that we, as like clubs, as organizations, and like doing the recruiting side, the marketing side is not viewed the same way. You just kind of use the prestige instead of the like actual like personal connection of marketing.
Right.
And I think that's the most, for me, I think that's the most important part of marketing.
No, I agree. And, I think when you market something, you build a level of trust within the community, you build a level of trust within the players and the parents, because, you can maybe look back 10, 20 years ago, when soccer was obviously just kind of taken off here in the US from like a paid sport perspective. And, half the expats that were here would just get away with it because they had an accent. Like, half of them didn't know what the heck they were doing, but they had an accent. So
literally,
right, like American parents are like, sure, this guy speaks funny, so we're going to trust him with our kid. That was it. That was marketing back in the day. That was marketing. And now people have become smarter and more educated, and clubs have done a very good job about educating parents and players about the development pathways and opportunities that are available to them. And so the marketing strategy had to change. You had to build a level of trust within the community, and that an accent was only going to get you so far. So some of the Cowboys that have come over and obviously done some great things, and some of them have obviously tarnish their reputation. But the level of marketing you had to build trust. It was so important for me when I was going through the process to build a level of trust with the players and with the coaches that I hired, and with the parents that came into the club. And you better believe that anything you said, they held you accountable for. Like if you said it and you didn't do it, they made sure that you knew that you had said it and that you didn't do it. And so it was so important, and I think it's so important for everybody to understand, like, please do not preach something and then don't follow through on it, because parents are smarter now. Kids are smarter now than what they were 10, 15 years ago here in the States. They will hold you accountable.
And they pay so much more money now. Like,
right.
if nothing else, like if they don't care about anything else, you know what I promise you people care about is if they're spending a lot of money. And they expect, like, it's like you said, if you're saying something and they're like, okay, I agree to buy that. It's a purchase agreement. I agree to buy that.
Yeah.
And you don't follow through, I want a refund. Like, and
100%.
And you get that stuff all the time. And no, I 100% agree. And I think you're right. I think because people have at least, now, I think we probably both agree. I think sometimes people don't maybe necessarily know as much as they sometimes think they know, but they definitely know a lot more than they used to. That's without a doubt. And so they're at least getting, and like a lot of people are getting much smarter. You're having, and also the other component is you're actually having parents now who also did play soccer before, which didn't happen. So they have at least an idea of what it looks like, and they're like, nope, that's not it.
Yeah,
it's definitely not what you said. And and they're going to call you out on it, and rightfully so.
Yeah,
no,
as they should. They're well within their rights. And kind of coming back to your point, 10 years from now, there'll be kids that have come through the club system that are now parents that will then look back and go, wait a minute. And they'll start to ask questions. Before, in the beginning, it was simply about money. It was simply about, I wrote a check for X amount of dollars and I'm not getting the service that I'm paid for. No different to paying, your Xfinity bill and it going out and your internet going out. I'm paying for a service, I want to get it. So the trust that you have to build in the marketing side of things is vitally important before you're going to start any club, for sure.
No, I 100% agree. I do want to talk about, I think the big thing that obviously we want to talk about, and you got it on your shirt, is obviously from Liverpool. It seems like you made that transition in coaching, and obviously you're still doing the coaching, but then get into with Vio. Kind of walk us through that timeline. Did that happen before or after you went to Tennessee? How did that exactly work out for you?
Yeah, so it was 2019 that it kind of came about. I'd recently hired a assistant director to Ann Arbor, to the Liverpool Ann Arbor. His name is Jamie Black, and he came in, high reputation. He'd worked mainly in the New England area. Again, another expat, and he was obviously here, and he'd come highly recommended. And we were in the market for an assistant director to myself. I'd been doing it for 3 years, just kind of by myself. So obviously, and as we were growing, we need to add in more staff, more director positions, and so forth. And he came highly recommended, so we brought him into the club. And so one of the first meetings we had actually is he was like, do we film games, Lee? Do our older kids have any game footage that we can obviously use for tactical analysis and, college recruitment and stuff like that? And I was like, what, we don't, we don't have any film, so, and at that time you weren't really thinking about it. But obviously when someone mentions it to you, the wheels start to turn, and, you start to think, what, we kind of do need some film, because these older kids will be going to college and they do need some recruitment videos and stuff. So I started to explore some options, and we landed on Vio as being that option. So I was actually a consumer of the product before I was an employee of the company. So we actually brought 2 Vio units for the Liverpool Ann Arbor site, and we filmed as much as what we could with the Vio units. And when they said it's, and you have your hesitations because you're like, okay, I can film without anybody controlling it. Like it's just gonna sit there, and I hit record on my phone, and it's just going to film. And you're kind of like, nah, that's not going to happen. But I got it. Came within like 2 weeks of ordering it. Popped it up at the field. We were in the middle of the summer at the time. We were playing Super Y League in Ann Arbor, and popped it up. Hit record on my phone, and lo and behold, again, like the marketing said earlier, does exactly what it says on the tin. It filmed the game, And like my mind was just blown at the time. And this is when VO was a startup. They'd only been in the US since June, and
Oh wow.
we got it in July. We got it like late July, I want to say, like last week in July 2019, and they'd only just been approved for the product to be sold in the US in June, so June 1st. So we were one of the first, I believe it was like 500 customers in the US to obtain a VO camera, because they're in, again, great marketing, and a camera that can film the game without anybody controlling it. I mean, you're like, that's me, that's a piece of me, so again, going back to the entrepreneurship, I was like, this is gonna go crazy. Like, this is like, if this product can do exactly what it says it can do, which again, I worked it as a consumer, I was as a coach, as a director for many months. I was like, this is incredible. So I reached out to VO, and I was like, hey, like, here's my business plan for the first 90 days if you were to hire me as a market manager for the company. And I obviously spent a couple of weeks putting together like a PowerPoint presentation. I sent it over to their CMO, who's now my boss, and obviously their upper management had kind of taken a look at it. And I can't remember. I tell you where I was. I was in a Super Y national finals in Tampa at the time with one of my Liverpool teams, and I get a call when I'm in the hotel room, and it's a Danish number, and I was like, who do I know in Denmark? And you're thinking it's like one of those like scam calls that
100%.
they're about to try and sell you something that you don't want, like a VO camera. But so I pick up the phone, and it's a gentleman called Christian, and he's the chief sales officer, and he was like, Lee, we reviewed your 90-day plan, we loved it. He's like, how'd you like to start working for us? And this is like December. This is December, and I was like, okay, I have to talk it over with my wife. I'm a current director of coaching for a very big club. I've spent a lot of time building this club, and obviously I have no reason to leave. Like, I have no reason to leave what I'm currently doing right now. I enjoy what I do. I love the club. I love living in Ann Arbor. Like, I'm in a great position. Why would I ever leave? So get through Super Y finals, and I head home and I talked to my wife about it, and I don't know, like, something about me just said this is the right path to take. Like, I've been coaching at this point, whether it be in the UK or here in the US, for 15 years, and I was kind of getting, you're a coach. It is a rat race sometimes, and it's tough mentally, physically. I had a young family. I'm gone Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday in the evening. I'm not tucking my kids into bed.
Right.
I'm not seeing my wife. I'm not sitting down for an evening meal. And then when Friday comes around, guess what? I'm coaching 4 teams, so I'm gone every weekend. I'm in Grand Rapids, I'm in Muskegon, I'm in, here, there, and everywhere. A couple of my teams were playing at a national level, so I was in Ohio and Indiana and Pennsylvania. So I was like, this is a 7-day-a-week job, and so I was getting burned out. And so I was like, you know what? I'll never get another opportunity like this. Like, I'll never get another opportunity to work for a company at the ground level and start to kind of build a reputation and start to, work my way through the, the corporate ladder, should we say. So I took it. I took the job that they offered me, and I started February 1st, 2020. And guess what happened a month later in the US? Yeah, exactly. Freaking COVID hit. So I had like literally a month in a new position before COVID had hit. And I'd gone to Denmark, and I'd done all my onboarding and my training and all that stuff. And I flew back in, which I swear, by the way, I caught COVID on the flight on the way home. I promise you. Like, I got home, and right, it was like late, no, like mid-February 2020.
That's about
the timing is not too far off.
Pretty well.
It adds up. So I get home, and like I've been home for like 2 days, and I just wake up in the middle of the night, and I'm just coughing and like it's just. And it's February in Michigan, so it's deep cold outside. So it's like midnight. I open the front door. I just let all this cold air kind of get into my lungs and stuff. But I'm just like coughing uncontrollably for like 2 days, February, and then out of nowhere, just goes away. Just like, so was it a virus? Was it COVID? Who knows? I don't know, because no one knew to get tested then, because COVID didn't apparently, come here until March. So I had no idea. But again, start for the company. I'm thinking, this is awesome, new career, new, again, my 4th life now that I'm on, in terms of career paths and all this stuff. And I'm like, let's hit the ground running. I'm the only US employee here for the company. I get this blank slate to work with. This is what I'm going to do. My 90-day plan that I've just submitted to the bosses, the CEO, CMO, CFO, ABC, everybody else in between. And now I don't get to implement it because of this freaking virus that's hit our shores. So it was quite the start to my journey. Let's put it that way.
Oh man, yeah, no, and so I guess like with that, like obviously, uh, I want to talk about what you've done since, but like with VO, obviously you used it, you like it. I've obviously used it at this point
Mm-hmm.
to an extent. Um, just like from not even just from the technology standpoint of it, but just from like the company standpoint, obviously, like you saw what it like. Were you kind of seeing what it was gonna be, or like what was going through your mind from that standpoint of like, I see this here and wherever it is. How did that look for you?
Yeah, great question. And in fact, that was the exact same question that my wife asked me before I took the job.
Yeah.
She was like, "Where do you see this? Because if you don't see it anywhere, why are you taking it?" Like when I was working for Liverpool and growing the Ann Arbor site, I saw where that was going because I had control of it. It was it
Right.
was it was my baby. I knew what I was developing and what I was growing and where it was kind of going to go to. But it was out of my control. And so I had to have trust in the company. I had to trust that they were more than just hardware. Like they were more than just this
Yeah.
green camera on a tripod. That it was more than that. And so I think like the first time that it really hit home was when I flew to Copenhagen and I went to the office and I saw everything that they were doing. This VO is not, I think what people get hung up on is VO is not a hardware company. It's not a camera company. It's not a tripod company. It is an outright software company. That's what people, when they say like, what am I paying a subscription for? You're paying a subscription because someone has developed an algorithm to physically track a ball and a
Yeah.
game without anybody operating it, and that's software, right?
Yeah.
That's
Yeah. For
software right
sure.
there. And it's artificial intelligence. And the more you feed artificial intelligence, the more you grow software, the better the product will be. And I'm guilty on my social media all the time when people have little digs at VO here and there, and it's fine. I mean, that's why some people choose iPhones and some people choose Androids,
Yeah.
because there's choices out there for people to make. But VO in the US and VO as a company in general, it's still a very young, company. It's only 4 years realistically here where it's been selling product. And I think back, and again, I talk about it being a software company. Well, so is Apple and
Yep.
so is Android. And Apple had to start with the iPhone 1. And now they're in and think about how much they've done in that time. And VO puts itself along the same trajectory, right? We are on the iPhone 1 right now, but if we keep along that trajectory and we keep along that development of what Apple are doing and Android and Google and all the other tech companies out there, eventually we're just going to keep growing this thing. And Apple started with the iPhone 1 when technology was very immature at the time. And
Right.
we're starting when technology is booming and there's so much at our disposal to work with. There's so many great minds to work with. So I think that we're going to accelerate that process, and so that's the big thing about VO. And what kind of really kind of reeled me in was when I went to the office and I spoke to them. It was like, this is a technology company. That was what their main focus was. Not the camera was just a means to an end. It was, we're a technology company and we're going to keep advancing in that. And a very distinct memory I had when I think I'd flown. I went from Detroit to Frankfurt and then Frankfurt into Copenhagen, and with the time difference and everything, I landed at about 7 a.m. in the morning, but I'd taken off at like 6 p.m. in the evening in Detroit. And so I get there and it's the start of the workday on a Monday. And I'm just, rubbing my eyes and kind of like walking in the office. I've already got my suitcase and stuff. And I walk in and it's this huge open span office. There's no separate offices. There's no like name tags on the door, like CEO and CFO and CSO and this big like America corporate that you think of with all these like
Yeah.
huge private rooms that the boss sits in. You wouldn't have been able to tell our CEO from the janitor. You wouldn't have been able to tell the difference. Everybody was working in the same environment at different desks, all open, and it was just this cool cultural experience that I got, to say everybody is on the same level here. There is no hierarchy management when it comes to in the workplace. Maybe as a title that you can put on your email signature, but when it comes to like working face to face with someone, you could tell that there was no hierarchy at that time. Everybody just worked collectively with one another to achieve the same goal. It was really cool.
That's interesting, and I imagine it kind of like, because the way that you've talked about like the way that you marketed and like getting into the schools and like having like making the communities have trust in you through that like
Hmm.
communal feel was probably is kind of similar to what you're kind of saying like with that company is like you felt a part of what it was. You didn't like, and not just a part of it, felt like almost like a community or a family.
Hmm.
And when you're able to feel that, you automatically have more trust. It's the same way, like we going back to it, like we talked about with these with the clubs and whatnot. Like if
Hmm.
you can make a community feel like you are not a, big club, you're a community club, then they have
Hmm.
trust. And it seems like it's kind of the same way.
Yeah, exactly. And that was what we did with VO when we first came here. Was, we wanted everybody to know that this was not for the elite of the elite. This was not just for the MLS academies. It wasn't for the pro academies and so forth. This was a product that was for absolutely everybody. It didn't matter if you were, D1 college, NAIA, high school, grassroots club. It was literally for everybody. And I think it took some time for people to realize, because again, a lot of people look at the sticker value of VO and think, oh, that's quite expensive. But when you break it down, it's really not that expensive, and it depends on what you want it for. At the end of the day, like the way we have a lot of parents buy VO, just mom and dad, they'll go and buy it. No different than they might buy an iPhone or an Android and whatever, right? They went out and bought it because we are the modern day VHS tape. That's what we are. We're a digital version of that. When mom and dad used to film you on the big cameras, or the old Kodaks or whatever, and they used to film you and it ended up on like a home movie on your VHS. That's what some people buy VO for, because they want those memories, right? And for me, if I wish that my sons now could see me score all the 2 goals that I scored when I was actually playing. Like if only I could show them, guys, dad could actually play. And they're like, sure, dad, of course you could play. I have nothing. I got nothing. I got nothing to show him, But
Yeah.
now, I mean, it's the ultimate flex, right? I use VO to feed my own kids,
Yeah.
right? So now I get to use a product that I work for, and I travel a lot with the company. I mean, I'm all over the US with VO with
For
with
sure.
marketing, and so I have a VO of my own, obviously, and I leave it with my wife. And if anybody's seen any of the VO paid ads that we run on social media, I actually trained my 9-year-old son how to use a VO.
I did see that. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so when I'm away, he sets up the VO to film his own games.
Oh,
He
wow.
uses my wife's phone, pops up the VO, hits record, and then he goes and plays. And guess what? I'm away. I'm in Dallas. I'm in Cali or wherever, right? I get to now log into my VO account and I get to watch my son play however far away I am. So regardless of all this, it's college recruitment. Only the elite academies use it. Pro academies are using it for tactical analysis. These are all true, but I get to use it as a parent, and many other parents get to use it out there just to watch their kids play. It's the digital version of the old VHS home movies that we all used to watch.
Yeah, because I mean, I think when you look at any like groundbreaking technology or any like just kind of like in industry moving technology, right? When they first come out, that's kind of always the like preconceived notion is like only the rich, it's only for the rich people, like only the rich can afford it and different things like that. And maybe that is somewhat true at the beginning because at the
Mhm.
beginning like it costs it actually, I mean, if you're not selling as much product,
Mhm.
unfortunately, you got to sell it for a higher price and different things like that.
Yep.
And so, I mean, it's like if the iPhone wasn't the most popular thing in the United States, they'd actually cost way more money
Yeah.
because they'd have to make money because it
Yeah.
costs
Yeah.
a lot of money to make these type of
Hundred
things
percent.
or things like that. So, I think it's no different than anything like that where everything starts out with this notion that it's only marketed, it's only for a certain sector or economic standing,
Hmm.
and that's not always the case. It's just like at the ground floor when things cost a little bit more, yeah, the people that can afford it are the first ones to buy it. It's like
Hmm.
it's just
Yeah.
like it is how
Hundred
it goes,
percent.
but that doesn't, yeah, it's like you said, I think that is the cool thing that I've definitely noticed, like, in a lot of the things you got, a lot of marketing things that I've seen is like you are trying to like get the point across that literally it's for everybody. And one thing that I kind of like I wonder about is as it does grow, like we're talking about, and maybe we start to see even like smaller clubs and even like schools or different things like that. I wonder because I think a big problem in the United States, because of how much of it is is pay to play. I wonder if like the integration of like stuff like something like VO, it will allow those kids that would normally kind of fall through the cracks to like less of them to fall through the cracks because a VO camera set up at a rec game, like VO cameras are set up all these clubs in a rec game, and you can go on and like someone who is willing to give a kid like that would never play for a club or anything like that. Now it's like, hey, by the way, I would love to give you we'd love to scholarship your kid, so they have the chance to play, which is happens. People do get scholarships, but most people don't know that those are available at clubs. So then you get a bunch of kids that have all the talent in the world, have all the potential, but they don't play because they unfortunately don't have the money to. And so I've wondered, like, I wonder if this is kind of something that could be, at least bridge a little bit of the gap. Obviously, always going to have kids that fall through the cracks, that don't make it, that what ifs, right? But if we could just like, kind of close that gap and less of those happen. I wonder if this is maybe a way that something like that does happen.
Yeah, and I mean, you raise a great point in terms of how many kids are falling through the crack because a coach only got one look at them.
Yeah.
That was it. And I mean, let's take for example the tryout weekend in Michigan, right?
Yeah.
We get Father's Day weekend. And again, that was another reason, right? Like a father myself, never had a Father's Day weekend. Now I do. It's awesome. Like I get a Father's Day weekend. Anyway, so you get those tryouts, you get that one weekend. But imagine if you were filming those tryouts and imagine you didn't look at it just that one time. You didn't look at that kid just that one day that you had him. You actually had time to go home as a coach and say, you know what? We filmed that tryout. Let me go back and have a look and really look at that kid before I make that choice to call mom or dad or the kid and tell them that they didn't make my team. Like really look at it because you'll know as coaching, a lot of coaching is emotional based. Like we're coaching in the emotional side of the game. And when we actually pause and stop and take a step back and watch and observe, again, did we really play as bad as what I think we did? Or did we really play as well as what I think we did?
Yeah.
Two completely different things when you're watching it back on video. So again, regardless of all this tactical analysis and back four shape and defensive discipline and distances and all that, scrap all that, like break it down to its simplicity. Like what can we use video for? Not even video, just video in general. Just what can video be used for? Is it A, players slipping through the crack because the coach was trying to watch 50 kids at their tryout, and little Johnny slipped through the crack, whereas I can go home and I can rewatch it. I can, and again, not video, just video in general, right? And again, those players that are at the maybe, lesser social economic clubs or community clubs that maybe are not able to get into those, ECNL or MLS Next or whatever ridiculous amount of leagues we're now working with here in the US, like how can we, pick those players out and were they being filmed and do we have enough footage of them to be able to make an informative decision on that? And I just don't think we can, when I look at some of these huge clubs, and not just in Michigan either. I mean, all around the US,
Of course.
some of these clubs get like 60, 70 kids come and try out for one age group. How can you make a decision? How can you really pick the best 18 players from that just by 2 days? That's it, 2 days. Not even 2 days, sorry. 2 hours, 4 hours in total. 2 hours on a Saturday, 2 hours on a Sunday. You can't. You can't. And any coach that says that they can pick their best 18 kids in a 4-hour window is a liar. Like you can't. It's impossible.
Yeah, not with that many kids.
Not with that many kids. And there are a lot of clubs, again, around the US that will have that many kids come out because there's a lot of obviously big franchise clubs within the US that are able to attract that many kids into their club because of good marketing, good brand awareness, good reputation that they've got for themselves, and I think that myself and you Liverpool and Nationals and Jags and Wolves and obviously Midwest United, all these big clubs in the Michigan area, they've built that reputation for themselves. They've built a great reputation. They've built a great brand. They've built a great trust in the areas that they're working with. But what does their tryout process look like now that there is video technology available? Because 3-4 years ago, that wasn't available.
Right.
Can maybe people change the way that the tryouts are held now that video technology is available? And can parents now And I hate to say this because the directors will probably kill me for it, but like now parents can say, did you film that tryout? Did you really take a closer look at my child? Or did you just pick from the 2 hours that you had on the Saturday? So there's a lot of different things that video can change within the world of soccer. For sure.
And obviously we've seen that it's changing, and I guess that's something I am interested to get into is like we've kind of talked about some different uses before I really get into the future of things.
Mm.
What are some like real creative uses like beside like that you've seen that like that VO's been used for and different things like that?
Yeah. So a couple of things like right out the gate is one position that we always seem to ignore as we're coaches as goalkeepers. Goalkeepers are always like, way down the line. We're like, okay, we've got like 17 outfield kids and one goalkeeper, or 16 outfield players. So goalkeeping practices have been something that we've used it for quite a lot as well, that we've seen it for, but not only goalkeeping practices, but because the camera can film at 180 degrees and it can film the entire field, and we have the interactive mode on our platform, you can move the camera where you want it to go. So it doesn't need to be in the follow ball mode is what we say, or the broadcast mode where it's tracking a game like you'd watch it on TV. You can go into the interactive mode and you can actually pan and you can watch whoever you want to watch. So one thing that I've seen coaches use it for quite a lot is actually looking at the goalkeeper when the ball is in the attacking third.
Okay.
So what's the position? Like, is my goalkeeper still on their line? Are they on the edge of their 18-yard box? Like, how far out are they? So I see a lot of coaches now kind of using that feature to kind of look at where their goalkeeping position is. So again, a lot of off the ball, because again, 11v11, kids are only going to spend on average between 10 to 12 minutes on the ball, if not less than that. So it's all about what they're doing off the ball. So that interactive mode kind of really helps the coach kind of look at what players are doing off the ball when they're not touching it. So that's one great area that we've seen. Referee development has been a huge one as well. A lot of people think VO, it's for the coach, it's for the players. There's a referee out there as well. There's a referee on that field. So we've actually interacted with quite a lot of referee associations who wanted to use it to better develop and evaluate their referees, because referee assigners or the states can't be at every game. So we've seen it before. Parents submit a complaint about a referee, coaches submit a complaint about a referee, and now we can see.
Yeah.
Like we're not just taking people's word for it. It's not a he said she said argument anymore. It's a send me the video. Let me see for myself. Let me see if there's any injustice that we've seen. It's almost like an on-demand VAR system. Like we're able to go back and actually take a look to see if the complaint is warranted. And then honestly, the other one is because that the camera can capture sound, and we put it sometimes on the parent sideline. You can hear what the parents are saying, and we always have that issue as coaches, right? Are the parents coaching from the sideline? And it's amazing. Now we go to so many events around the country marketing VO, and we'll come in and we'll film a game, for free, and we'll hand it out to the parents to kind of show them what it's like. But a lot of people have kind of got to know VO and got to see it so much now over the past like 18 months that I've been working here, that you'll put a VO down on the parent sideline and everybody would just disperse. Like everybody would just go to the corners because they're like, oh crap, this thing's going to pick me up and it's going to hear what I'm saying. It's going to, you know what I mean? So actually it reins people in. And it also reins coaches in.
I'm in. I'm 100%
right?
in.
Right. Because you're like, you put it on the coaching sideline, now the coach is held accountable.
Yeah, that's
because
fair.
like you put it there, now the coach is held accountable. Like when you sub a player out, did you give them feedback when they came off the field? Because if a VO is filming and you didn't, then the parent's going to pick up on that.
Yep.
Like if you sub my kid, give him some constructive feedback, be a good coach, and just say, you did this, and this, but let's work on this, and that. Good, fantastic. Put it on the parent sideline. Now the coach has a bit of a weaponry and said, guys, like we've been over this, no coaching from the sidelines, and I can clearly see it and hear it. So again, when you break it down, it's when we talk about it being for everybody, it has so much more use than just filming a game of soccer or a practice. It captures everything. And that is the one thing that we can't say enough is it's not just about the game, it's everything else that's going on around it.
Yeah, and I think obviously one of the nice thing is like obviously with it being autonomous and what is like you kind of go back to like it's the old school VHS, but it allows the person that always filmed those things to actually partake in those things as well now. That parent that was filming it, and then well, I mean, I think we've all seen the film of their kids about to score the goal, and they get so excited, and all of a sudden the camera's here, and the goal happens. Like
Yeah.
that kind of thing, and it's not really their fault because they're in it. It's their kid or their team or whatever. They're excited, and so the fact that it allows everyone to just like focus on this thing and take they don't have to they don't have to worry about filming the game because nobody else stepped up to do it, and like that kind of thing. And so I think that that's a very interesting thing component, is like it just allows everyone to now be involved again.
Right. I mean, we've spoken to parents. Again, we attend so many tournaments around the US, and we speak to parents, and we see them there with their iPhones, and we see them there with their Androids or their GoPros or whatever that are up on the stick, and they're twisting and moving it and stuff. And I'm thinking that parent is not enjoying this game. They're not enjoying it. They might enjoy it, later on when they can watch the video back. But imagine if they could do both. Imagine if they could enjoy it in the moment and also enjoy it later on when they can watch the game. So we're almost giving the game back to the parents and back to the coaches at the same time. It's like, hey, parent, you want to watch this game, or you want to stand behind a camera, or you want to film it, or you want to use your, like, sit down, watch the game, and let VO film the game for you. Enjoy being in the moment. Enjoy watching your child play live, and then you can go back and watch it later on as well. So you can enjoy both. And like you said, we've seen it before. Parents filming, injured players filming. We've seen it all. And so just to kind of give the game back to the parents has been something that we find very, very rewarding as a company.
Oh, for sure, absolutely. And speaking of the company, speaking of the camera, we talked about this. It's come a long way in a short period. I really think it has, obviously from I think technological standpoint, but also a marketing standpoint, just a exposure standpoint. But as it's growing, it's becoming much more popular. What are the things that are coming in the future for VO? Maybe things that are planned, or maybe even just things that you see personally, just being a part of the company.
Yeah, so I think one of the things that we experienced early on, and again, I think what's nice about, we listen to the customers, right? And I think that's what's great about myself and the other market managers here in the US, that we attend these events. We get to put ourselves in front of the customers, and we put ourselves out there for people to come and give us feedback, which, by the way, we love. Like, we love getting feedback, because this is not a product for us. This is a product for you. This is not a product that we're going to use every single day of the week. It's a product that our customers are going to use every day of the week. So as long as we keep improving, then obviously the customers will keep coming back, and that's what we want. We want to keep improving that. So I think the one area that we experienced in the beginning was the upload time of how we got the games off the camera into the cloud, processed, and then back out again. It used to take 24 hours. Like, people like, 24 hours, what? And it was like, no way. Like, this is like, then we got it down to like 12, then it was down to 8, then it's down to 6. I'll tell you, this past weekend I was in Dallas. We filmed 50 games, came back home, uploaded it. I managed to get 15 games uploaded in 2.5 hours, because we've made that much development in the upload system. Now, I will preface, I do have AT&T fiber, so it is obviously quite quick. If you live out in the sticks, it's going to take a little bit of time, but the two best providers are Xfinity and AT&T. If you have those services, you're great. If you have Spectrum, I'm real sorry, it takes a little bit longer with Spectrum, but AT&T and Xfinity, man, we got you covered. We did the St. Louis Scott Gallagher Boys Showcase. I think we filmed like 160 to 170 games, and we had all of those uploaded day after day. Like, we filmed Saturday, had them uploaded, they were ready Sunday morning. We got off the field at like 10 o'clock in the evening, they were ready by 6 a.m. Sunday morning. Same thing on Sunday, we filmed all the games, we got them uploaded Sunday, they were ready by Monday morning. It was a lot, so the upload speed is something that we've really kind of focused on as a company to improve, because we understand that people get excited. They're like, that game was awesome, I want to watch it back again. You got to wait 24 hours. And people are like, no, that's not going to work. So that was something that was kind of high on our priority list, right? Let's get that fixed. And we've done a fantastic job, and we just released an update last Monday that improved the upload and processing speed of the entire organization. So that's been something. Another thing that we've received is obviously AI. can obviously tag the goals. So any goal that is scored within a game, it automatically tags and clips. Coaches and parents and players don't need to go find it. It's already done for you. It clips out halftime. It clips out the dead period and all that stuff. So that's taken care of. So you don't have to worry about watching that. It will clip that. So that's something else that we've got coming in the future. More of those, like free kicks, corner kicks, penalty kicks, like more AI driven highlights
Okay.
that need to be obviously put in there. That's another thing that we're working on. But again, like AI, you need to feed it the information. You need to give it as much. You need to give it almost like a checklist. So for goals, for example, like we always get the question like, how does it know a goal was scored? Like, how does it know that a goal has been scored? And like most people are like, oh yeah, the ball just goes into the goal. I'm sure it'll just recognize that. Well, it sounds great in hindsight. Like, yeah, ball go, yeah. It doesn't actually notice that whatsoever. It's like, okay, ball goes in the goal, the ball goes back on the center spot, and then the two teams go back to their respective halves. It's a checklist of things that have to be accomplished in order for the AI to pick up that it's a goal. That's why you'll see no offside goals being flagged in the system as goals, because those things didn't happen. The kids didn't go back to their respective halves. The ball didn't go back in the center spot, so it has a checklist of things. So when we talk about AI and like what else we can auto tag in those highlights, we have to give it a checklist of things like what things happen when a corner is being taken, and can we feed that to the AI that's consistent, that consistently happen, free kicks, penalty kicks, all these things. So once we figure those out, which our AI team is fantastic at doing, we can obviously do more of those things. And not only just for soccer, but for all sports, lacrosse, field hockey, American football. We're doing basketball now. We're doing rugby now. So we went from being like a soccer camera to just a sports camera in a very, very short period of time, because the engineer department and the software department figured out, hey, if we can do it for this, we can do it for all of it. So obviously now we're starting to branch out into the sport world instead of just the soccer world as well. So I'd say more AI driven stats are coming towards that as well. And then the last thing is more player orientated. So we're working on a feature right now where you can actually just watch a player. So, where you can obviously just go in and just watch a player. You don't have to watch the game in the broadcast mode. You can actually physically watch a player. You can get their stats with a heat map that's on there, because the camera will pick up the parameter of the field that it's working in. And obviously it will be able to generate a heat map of where that particular player's gone, with on the field, because it can do that. And I think that the key thing is this is all without wearing anything. You see like a lot of these GPS companies that obviously have to wear something that kind of tracks. We're doing all of this without wearables. We're doing all this without kids having to wear anything, no type of like GPS vest or tag or anything like that. This is all being done just by the AI in the software within the camera and within the cloud. This is without kids wearing, or guys or girls, whatever, without them wearing anything. And I think that's like a really revolutionary style of obviously being able to track these stats, is just completely autonomously through the software and through the AI.
Oh, that'd be incredible, without a doubt.
Yeah.
The only thing I guess that I know that I've heard, and obviously I think people ask about is like the live streaming aspect of it. And if that's something that is on the docket and is looking like it'll ever happen with VO. I know that's the only thing I can think of that people have wondered about. Is that something that looks like it at least is being thought about?
I mean, it would be pretty cool if we could live stream, right? Like, I think that's what everybody's kind of looking for is, especially within COVID, right? Like everybody was like, grandma and grandpa can't come to the game, so it'd be super awesome if we could live stream that game. But obviously, there's a lot of different hurdles that come with live streaming, because as a company, we always pride ourselves on being portable. So if you can do it in like a metro area, like Manhattan or something, we also want to be able to do it in a cornfield in Nebraska somewhere, right? Like we have to maintain that company philosophy. So I think once we can obviously work out, working with the major cell phone carriers, AT&T and Verizon and T-Mobile. I think that's something that is not out of the realms of possibility, to be able to live stream. Can I say that we will be live streaming? I can't say that, but I can say that, is it possible with the technology that we currently possess at VO? Yes, it's definitely possible. But I can't say for sure exactly when that possibility will be, but it is possible within the realms of what technology we're working with.
Fair enough. Before we move on to the last little portion of this,
Yeah.
we've talked about VO and all those things. But I suppose this little period, I'll just let you just kind of anyone who's still questioning it or wondering, one little last pitch, your best pitch for VO as a camera.
I mean, I'll kind of go back to what I said earlier on about giving the game back to the parents and giving it back to the coaches. If you want to enjoy watching the game live without having to stand there and film, VO is the only way that you're going to be able to do it. You know, you can get to enjoy the game live. You can get to enjoy the game a little bit later on as well. And we take all of the workload and all of the stress out of filming a game. Players are looking at it for college recruitment. Moms and dads are looking at it for memories. We're looking at it to send it to grandma and grandpa so that they can watch their kids if they live in a different state or in a different country. This is an all-encompassing technology that can solve many, many, many purposes. So if you are a parent that stands there with their camera and films, you don't need to do that anymore. If you're a coach that loves to break down the game and do tactical analysis, this is the equipment for you. And if you're a player that wants to go to college or you have aspirations to go on to the next level and the college coach reaches out to you and says, hey, have you got any footage? This is what's going to help you do it. So parents, players, coaches, there's just no better system out there to be able to capture everything that you want.
Not bad at all. It's almost like you've done it before.
It's almost like I market for the company.
Yeah, something like that. With these, I always do some kind of game at the end, either trivia or I guess like a hot topics thing. And called Is It Tactical or Is It Foul? That's what we're going to go with today. So
awesome.
Relevant topics, either in your life or just in football in general. So
let's do it.
All right. First one I have is it tactical or is it foul? The heavy utilization of technology in football, in the professional game.
Oh, that's a great question. VAR.
VAR. But there is other things. So that's why because I think if I just say VAR, I think it's almost because it's not figured out. But a lot of technology.
The new
utilization.
Yeah, the new Chelsea coach Thomas Tuchel actually came out and said that there was too much technology within sports. It was I think it was about a month ago now. He said there's too much technology within sports and people are too dependent on stats, that they need. So I would agree. I'd almost say it's tactical, given the position that I'm in. But to a certain extent, it's borderline foul. But
in the middle.
It's definitely a middle ground. I'd say with a professional level, definitely tactical. They need that stuff. For the grassroots level, I don't think you need the same amount of technology as that you do at the professional level. And again, maybe I say this biasly, but do you need anything else other than film? Like, you really don't need anything else other than film. The film doesn't lie, so that's all you need.
That is fair. All right. This is obviously, you lived in Michigan, the landscape a little bit, but you've also been traveling the country now. So you also know that landscape. So Michigan as a state is a top 5 state in the United States in terms of just teams or clubs that are being produced from Michigan when compared to the other states in the United States. Top 5.
Tactical 100%. Like, Michigan is one of the best states that I've had the privilege of being able to coach in, work in, live in, for developing talent. Like, there are so many great players that come out of the state, and kind of being able to travel around the country like I've been very fortunate to do, especially during COVID, and going pretty much all over the country. And seeing coaches as well is obviously important. There's a lot of great coaches in Michigan as well. So those players can't get to the level they're at without the coaching that they get from the guys and girls in Michigan as well. So yes, I would agree that Michigan is definitely a top 5 state when it comes to the U.S. landscape.
All right, that's what we like to hear. All right. I did know you were a Southampton fan, by the way. So
all right, okay, good.
I do my research a little bit.
All right, good man, good man.
So another top 5, actually. Danny Ings is a top 5 striker in the Premier League.
Tactical, 100%. I mean, he's unbelievable. So my, I guess, is it an embarrassing story or not? I don't know. So Liverpool played Man United at the Big House in Ann Arbor. If everybody can remember that one. So
I do.
We're going. Oh, there you go. So we're going downtown. We head downtown after the game, and obviously Ann Arbor is absolutely slammed. I mean, there was 120,000 people plus the guys that were watching it in the bars and Conor O'Neill's downtown Ann Arbor and stuff. No, you couldn't get in anywhere. There was nowhere to get in. So I had my Liverpool shirt on, and I walk up to a guy at the Pretzel. I can't remember the full name of the bar now. Pretzel something downtown Ann Arbor. People will know. I can't remember. Anyway, walk up to the guy at the door. Got my Liverpool shirt, and I said, "Hey, I'm Danny Ings." And he said, "What?" I said, "Yeah, Danny Ings." So I pull up this photo and I show him. And again, my hair isn't like it is right now. It's a little bit longer at the time. So I show him, and he's like, "Oh, coming in." I swear, the true story. Coming in. Hey, 3 minutes later, the guy runs in and he says, "Hey, where's your tattoos?" I ain't got any tattoos. So he runs in, and I was like, "Dude, you've already sat me down now. So we're done. We're done. Get out." So
say well played, and
yeah, I really have to give it. He just patted me on the back, and just kind of walked down and stuff. But again, marketing. You know what I mean? You got to market yourself. So yeah, so got into a bar pretending to be Danny Ings. So I'm sure Danny Ings won't appreciate that, but it is what it is.
I think he would. He seems like a guy of the people. I think he would appreciate like the fact that you were able to use that to get in.
One of again, I to embarrass myself, my nickname throughout Liverpool FC when I was there was Fat Danny Ings. So that was that was my nickname when I was at Liverpool, was Fat Danny Ings. And I was like, you know what, I'll take the Danny Ings part. I'm fine.
Well, we do use VO through Tackle Foul. We have Foul FC, so we've been doing winter league games, and I get compared to Harry Maguire. It's not have anything.
Hey, there you go.
It has to do with the fact that I turn like a refrigerator at this point in my life. I used to be a very quick player. So
awesome. I love it.
It is what it is. So I
love it.
All awesome. Right. Next one. Hudson Hoodle will get the Saints back into Europe. I know.
If given the funds.
Okay.
Tactical. If not, foul. So it's all going to depend on funds. I love him. I've supported him all the way through. I mean, no coach can lose 9-0 to Man United and 9-0 to Leicester and still keep their job. No one. That's how much we as the fans love Ralph Hasenhüttl. Who does that? I mean, if Jose Mourinho would have lost 9-0 with Tottenham, he'd have been fired the next day. I mean, he was inevitably fired, of course. But, I mean, if anybody to lose 9-0 in 2 different seasons and the fans still to go, yeah, he's fine in our book. I mean, that speaks volumes for the fans of Southampton and how much trust they have in him.
To be fair, you guys also lost, but then also still end up, top half of the table. So it's like it.
Right?
I think I think phenomenal manager. I think
love him.
I think it would be a shame for you guys if he left because he'll have success.
We'd be relegated without him. I know that. Can he get us into Europe with the funding? Yes, but if we lose him, we'll get relegated. So you kind of have to kind of just be one of those teams that's just kind of happy to finish between like 18th and 10th, so it is what it is.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
All right. Last one. Let's see. No Premier League academy has lost or allowed more top talent to leave early than Southampton.
That doesn't surprise me. Tactical.
I'm not saying I agree with it. I'm just saying that it's to be fair, I'm sure someone had said it.
Yeah, I mean, the list is as long as a toilet roll, really, of how many players we've let go, and yeah, I mean, and it goes all the way back to Theo Walcott when he left to go to Arsenal. All the way back then. Yeah, exactly right.
Further.
Yeah, probably even further than that. But
you want to know who the number one person you guys let go early is in the list?
Alan Shearer.
Alan Shearer. Because especially since, he didn't play for you guys. And then the next year when he actually played for Blackburn, he scored 16 goals in 19 games.
It was crazy. It was crazy. I would probably say it was like Alan Shearer, then Gareth Bale.
Yeah.
Mane somewhere along the line there as well was another one. Tadic, Van Dijk, Wanyama, Alderweireld. The list goes on, man.
To be fair to you guys, a lot of those guys didn't come through your academy. Obviously. No. Theo Walcott, maybe you say you left early, but I would say you guys also sold people at the right time as well that didn't go on to have amazing careers by any means, or they were where they were at, maybe at your club.
Yeah.
Like I think Luke Shaw, I mean, maybe you could have held on to him for a little longer.
Yeah.
Obviously he's doing, to be fair, we had about 4 years of him being probably more than that, being awful,
Yeah.
or being average.
Yeah.
Now this
Average.
year,
Yeah.
great. But I think, I think you look at the Gareth Bales and different things like that. It probably got rid of him too soon. Different things, but I think you guys are have been good at finding talent and selling
Yeah.
them for good prices. You probably could have held on to a couple, and maybe you'd be in a little bit different spot. But
Yeah. For sure.
I'm sure most academies would say the same thing, right?
Yeah, and it's a business after all, right? I think that's what everybody has to remember. I mean, there's a CEO at the top there somewhere that's basically saying, "Can I get this cash cow early?" You know what I mean? And when Liverpool come in with a $75 million bid for Van Dijk, you just don't say no.
Right.
I mean, as much as we wanted to keep him, of course we did. You don't say no to 75 million.
No.
So there's some price tags out there that people have put on our players, and we're in a position not to say no. So we just had to let them go. And I think Saints fans have kind of come to the realization now that that's always going to happen. And
Yeah.
we look at going into next season. I posted it out today. I was like, Kane goes to United or City, and Danny Ings goes to Spurs. Like, it wouldn't surprise me if that was a scenario that happened. Would it be a sideways move for Danny Ings? 100%, because Spurs are not going to play in the Champions League. Like, they're just not.
I love it.
So,
I love it. I'm
so
all for it. I'm all for
yeah,
that Tottenham hate.
yeah,
I love that.
yeah.
No, I don't disagree, to be fair. But yeah, I think there's just clubs you look at, like, look, you're Southampton's not a club that generates a ton of money, and so you guys buy these Manes, Van Dykes, knowing, like, you buy them at ages where like, yeah, this player's gonna be really good.
Yeah.
Someone's probably gonna come in and buy them, and we're gonna sell them for way more money than what we bought them for.
Yeah.
And to be fair, that's like, I think it's why you're able to buy some of the players you have, or different things like that, or maybe
Mm-hmm.
reinvest at other places. I would imagine, maybe not yourself, but other people that support your club probably would say, well, we maybe not have reinvested it as well as we would like.
Yeah, that's
Um,
true.
but I think you guys have always bought kind of young,
Yeah.
not really like buying for now, more or less for future. And
I mean, we just re-signed Theo Walcott from Everton. That's a permanent signing now. It's gone from a loan to a permanent, but that's more mentorship than it is
yeah,
anything else.
yeah,
He's there to mentor the younger players coming through. We have a young player called Nathan Teller who scored this past weekend. He's there to mentor him, that type of stuff. So you definitely need those older players. I mean, everybody says it, you don't win anything with kids, so you need those mentorship players around. And Theo Walcott was obviously a nostalgic signing for us more than anything.
Yeah.
And now he's going to turn into that mentorship for the younger players. But the one player, obviously Matt Letitia is probably the most famous player that's ever come through Southampton. And, people can say what they want about him, not leaving and having all these offers from United and Spurs and, could have gone anywhere in his career in his prime, Matt Letitia, could have gone anywhere. And the one player that we have now that's kind of following in his footsteps is James Ward-Prowse. I mean, and he's a Pompey boy, like he's Portsmouth. He's I mean, it's our arch rivals, right? So, and that's where he's originally from. So for us to kind of go to bat for him, it speaks volumes and he's our captain, he's our leader, and we made his debut for the Premier League against Man City when we got promoted. We lost 3-2 opening day of the season when we first got promoted, and he was in the lineup. But I think he was like 18, maybe 19 years old at the time. And now he's captain, but he's come through the academy, he's worked hard, he's put in the effort, and now he's the captain of the team that he graduated from the academy from. I mean, I don't think that there's a better feeling as a player, to come through an academy and then captain that club that you came through. I mean, what an amazing feeling he must have, and pride.
I mean, it's why, like, United fans can't wait for certain players to come through. You have the players, you see them come through, you want them to do well, and when they do well, like, you don't want them to ever leave. And
right,
like, you understand when certain players leave at some points.
Yeah.
Marcus Rashford, I never want to see him leave ever. Mason Greenwood,
Right.
ever.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
It's why like Axel Tuanzebe captained us one game, like when they went over. It was just like a really young side, and like that's like that kid's been here since he was 4. like, you
Incredible.
love to see those kids doing well. So no, I
Yeah.
totally agree. Before I get you out of here, please let
Yeah.
everyone know where they can find you. Obviously the coaching stuff, the VO stuff, all that thing. Just let everybody know.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, simple stuff is, Twitter at CoachLee85. I'm on there where you can grab me on there. Email lee@vo.co. Nothing difficult about that one as well. And then obviously I have my own Facebook account, Coach Lee Hudson, that I kind of just use for just my coaching stuff. I have my opinion for anybody that follows me on Twitter. I have my own opinion on things that I think need to be fixed and changed. And not everybody agrees, but I get quite a good kick of having a conversation with those people that don't agree.
Sure. No, absolutely. Lee, I can't thank you enough for coming on. I appreciate it. It was a good time. I look forward to hopefully speaking to you more in the future.
For sure.
And definitely seeing what you have in store and what VO has in store. But until next time, guys, Kyle Grew, Lee Hudson, it's been Tactical Foul. Peace.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.